When Mia walked into the grand lobby of the Roswell International Hotel, she never expected her past to return with the force of a storm. She had only come to deliver the architectural sketches her small firm had been commissioned to prepare, and she had mentally prepared herself for a short interaction with the corporate team. What she did not prepare for was the sudden wave of memories that crashed into her when she heard someone say her name from behind. The voice was deep, unmistakably warm, and filled with something she could not immediately define. She turned, and her breath quietly lodged in her chest, because the man standing there was someone she thought she had left behind many years ago. Adrian Lee, her quiet school friend, the boy who used to sit behind her in class solving equations faster than their teacher. The boy who once shared his umbrella with her in the rain. The boy who left without saying goodbye. But now he stood tall, powerful, wrapped in a crisp black suit, his presence overwhelming enough to silence everyone around. It shocked her to realize that the gentle boy she once knew was now the billionaire CEO of Roswell Group, one of the biggest companies across Korea and China. And the way he was looking at her, with a depth so intense she felt her pulse stutter, made it very clear that time had changed many things, but not everything. Adrian walked toward her slowly, as if afraid she would disappear again, and Maya found her feet rooted to the marble floor. His expression was unreadable, as though he was fighting emotions that had been buried for years. He came to a stop just inches away from her, his eyes traveling across her face with a familiarity that made her heart tremble. "Mia," he whispered, as if her name was something sacred. "You're really here." His voice held a sense of wonder, like fate had finally returned what it once stole from him. Mia tried to steady herself, reminding her heart that she was no longer the schoolgirl who blushed whenever Adrian smiled at her. She was a grown woman now, someone with responsibilities, someone who had moved on. Or at least she believed she had, until this moment. Adrian's hand lifted slightly, as though he wanted to touch her, but wasn't sure if he had the right. His hesitation told Mia something she had always suspected back then, but never dared to assume Adrian had cared. He had cared more than he ever admitted. She swallowed, trying to speak, but words tangled in her throat as memories flooded her. The stolen glances, the quiet lunches they shared, the way he always walked beside her even when she pretended not to notice. She had once wondered if he felt something deeper, but before she could understand her own feelings, he had left for Korea suddenly. People said he moved because of family reasons. Others said it was for studies. But Mia always felt there was a story he never told her. Now, looking at the man in front of her, she could sense that story lingering in his gaze. Before she could form a sentence, Adrian closed the distance between them, not violently, not dramatically, but with a possessive gentleness that felt like he had waited too long to hold back anymore. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a warm, firm hug that melted every defense she had. The lobby around them faded, the chatter, the clicking footsteps, the business atmosphere. Everything disappeared beneath the overwhelming reality that Adrian Lee, the billionaire CEO, was holding her as if she belonged to him, as if he was reclaiming something he lost long ago. Maya stiffened for a second, not out of discomfort, but because the emotions flooding her chest were too powerful to process. Adrian buried his face lightly near her hair, inhaling the familiar scent he remembered from their school days. His grip tightened just slightly, not too much, but enough to tell her something silently. He didn't want to let her go again. "Maya, I've looked for you for years," he murmured, his voice low, controlled, yet vibrating with raw longing. "I didn't know I would find you like this, but I'm not losing you again." His confession stunned her. All these years she believed he forgot her, moved on, built a new life in a world far more glamorous and fast-paced than their simple school memories. She wondered why someone like him, a billionaire with the power to command thousands, would even remember her. But his arms around her told another truth. She could feel it in the way he held her, not with the cold dominance of a businessman, but with the warmth of someone who cherished her deeply. When he finally loosened the hug, he didn't step back. Instead, he cupped her face lightly with one hand, his thumb brushing her cheek with an affection so overwhelming she instinctively leaned into it. Adrian searched her eyes as though reading every unspoken thought. "You haven't changed," he breathed. "You still look at the world with the same softness, and it scares me how much I still want to protect that." His admission left Mia breathless. She tried to regain her composure, but Adrian seemed intent on pulling her into the gravitational field of his emotions. He asked about her life, her dreams, her work, and with each word he spoke, it felt like he was trying to stitch himself back into the spaces he once occupied. Mia explained how she worked as an architect, how life had been challenging but manageable, how she had learned to be independent. Adrian listened with an attentiveness that made her heart race. Every detail she shared seemed to matter to him. He interrupted only once, to slide his hand to the back of her waist protectively when a group of employees rushed past them too closely. Maya caught her breath at the subtle yet possessive gesture. It was so instinctive for him, as though claiming her was something woven into his nature. Adrian insisted on taking her to his office, saying he wanted to understand every part of the project her firm was doing. But Maya could sense it wasn't just business, it was personal, deeply personal. As they walked through the corridors, employees paused, Surprised to see their usually cold CEO walking beside someone with a softness they had never witnessed, Adrian didn't care. He kept close to her, guiding her with his hand lightly resting on her lower back. A touch that made her feel both cherished and overwhelmed. Inside his office, a beautifully designed space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, he asked her to sit, but then found himself unable to look away from her. The moment she settled on the chair, he moved closer and leaned his hip against the desk in front of her. His gaze fixed on her with such intensity that she felt warm under his stare. "Do you know," he said quietly, "that you were the only person who made school feel like home for me?" Mia blinked, stunned. Adrian continued, revealing how difficult his life had been, how he had lived under constant pressure to match his family's expectations, how he had always envied her ability to smile despite everything. He admitted that leaving without saying goodbye was his biggest regret, something that haunted him during every milestone of his success. Mia felt her heart soften, realizing the boy she once knew had carried burdens she never understood. Adrian suddenly moved closer, kneeling slightly so he was at her level, his eyes burning with emotion. "I won't ask you to forgive me today," he whispered, "but I want the chance to show you that I have never stopped valuing you." Before she could respond, Adrian reached forward and once again pulled her into a hug, this time slower, deeper, and filled with the confession he couldn't voice in words. Mia felt his heartbeat against her, steady yet intense. Like every thud carried a memory, a longing, a thousand unsaid apologies. His arms tightened around her waist, holding her as though he was afraid she might slip away if he loosened his grip even slightly. The possessiveness in his embrace was undeniable, yet it wasn't suffocating. It felt protective, desperate, full of years of suppressed affection. Maya was overwhelmed by the warmth spreading through her body. Adrian wasn't just hugging her, he was pouring years of silence, years of searching, years of regrets and hopes into that embrace. He whispered her name again, his voice trembling just enough to reveal his vulnerability. "I won't let distance, fate, or anything take you from me again." She felt her barriers crumble. Adrian's hold on her was firm, but gentle enough to tell her she had the power to step back if she wanted to. But she didn't. She found herself hugging him back, slowly at first, then with a sincerity that surprised even her. Adrian froze for a second, as if her reciprocation hit him harder than he expected. Then he wrapped his arms around her even more tightly, his breath warm near her ear. "Mio, this time I'm staying, and I'm not letting you walk out of my life ever again." His words were not aggressive. They were filled with devotion, like he had waited too long to hold her like this. The city outside moved on with its chaotic rhythm, but inside Adrian's office, time seemed to stretch gently between them, forming a quiet promise. As the afternoon sun filtered into the room, painting them in gold, Maya realized that life had a strange way of returning what once felt lost. Adrian, her school friend, the boy with quiet smiles and shy glances, was now a powerful CEO whose arms felt like the safest place she had ever known. And as he held her, with a possessive tenderness that made her heart melt, she understood something she had never dared to believe. The boy she once cared for had grown into a man who had been waiting for her all along.